having to like readjust because there's a bunch of work happening in the neighbor's place next door, and it is loud and annoying. But we're going to talk about change today, and I just want to grab my tea because I left it at the table. And then we'll have a conversation. How are you doing this Friday? Morning, evening, whatever time it is for you. What's going on in your world? You can let me know. But really kind of what I was just like, I've been sitting with this like desire to just share more about like where things are at. Oh, my little microphone here is flipping inside. Kind of maybe what some of the energy has been for people lately. Just picking up on like the energetic threads of the collective, of like humanity and the direction that we're going, leaving 2025, that hermit year, stepping into this year of the 10, the Wheel of Fortune, leaving behind the year of the snake, stepping into that fire horse year, moving into Neptune and Aries. Like all these things are like fire and movement, initiating, which, you know, fire is a transformative energy. It's changing, it's moving, burning away that which does not serve us anymore. And that was really, it's just been that really sitting for me as I reflect on the past, like many years, but especially the last year and a half of just the things I've gone through, the things I've let go of in my life, you know, closing down like a business that I was running, shifting just the direction or the like trajectory of my life, and letting go of the old self. So I think many of you are experiencing similar things to this. And I wanted to make sure that you're just, or just like share, I guess. You don't need permission to change. You don't need permission to live your life in the direction that you're now feeling the call, because life changes. That's like the only thing that really is consistent in this reality is change. And there's many different magical systems, spiritual tools that exist that show us this like format of like the wheel of life, the movement through the experience of life, the ups and downs that we can go through. And I just really want to come on here and like normalize that for you if you're needing to hear these words today. So I guess just a bit of backstory to those of you who are tuning in, especially if you're like new to the channel here, to me or whatever. My name's Fola, by the way. Hello. But I have gone through that transformation, which, you know, I love transformation as a Scorpio sun, the death, the dying, the new birth. It's exciting. It can be exhilarating sometimes. It can also sometimes be chaotic. So I like, you know, have seen change at multiple points in my life, like leaving Canada at one point when I was like a youth to move to the Middle East, like completely just up leveling, you know, like shifting, uprooting, I guess is the word I want to use, my life of what I knew from birth into then a completely different lifestyle, a completely different place, different temperament, like temperature, geography wise. It was really, yeah, culturally just so mind blowing. And at that point in my life, you know, I was like 12 going on 13. I did not want to move. I had my friends. I had like people, and like I was in grade, you know, going to like a junior high at that time. So I was like feeling the excitement of autonomy of going to classes, you know, like that typical, like you have your locker, you get to like change classes, like, you know, that stuff you'd see. What's that show, Breaker High? Like, I don't know, makes me think of that. But there was this like feeling that I was in this flow and everything was kind of like going right, you know, even though it was school. But it just felt like cool. I felt cool. I felt like comfortable. Things were working out. And then that news of okay, we're like moving to some unknown place for reasons that go beyond your control. And we moved, and I would say for a good year. When I had found out we were going to be moving, then there's like a whole process, visas, all this stuff that if you've ever traveled or worked overseas internationally, you might have an understanding of. Um, and that really like left me in this place of grief for about a year. I say grief, it was like a letting go, having to reconcile that I was about to make this change, that I had no control to make that change. And letting go of friends, letting go of relationships, and the things that I had held as important in my life up until that point. The moving to the city, arriving, it took me a good month, I would say, to really like acclimatize to this new place. The new school, everything, new temperature, walking off a plane where it's like a desert. Like it's very different than being in Canada. And don't get me wrong, I love heat. I love warmth. Just the like lifestyle was so different compared to what I remembered. And I want to touch on like the level of abundance was different because when I was a youth, like a child here in Canada, I feel like my parents struggled a lot with money. They would fight about money, like the things that you see and I think people experience oftentimes in that like late 30s. And I say that because I feel like that's where my learning has been this past like several years is around the like being this good steward is this term I've been hearing and reflecting on lately. And so coming from a place where there was like difficulty there to then this change that happened in my life where I was like uprooted and in another country, different culture, different way of being. And then I started to recognize that part of that different way of being was also a very luxurious, abundant way. If you've been to the Middle East, you know what I'm talking about. Arabs love life. They love to experience life. They love to be in like just like abundance of like food and music and the joys of everything that comes with. And if you've been to like the Middle East, like Dubai, any of these like other Arab countries where there is money, there's wealth, there's oil, and it's just extravagant living. And so I was like introduced to this way of life. We weren't necessarily like at the top rank of like wealth in Kuwait, but I can tell you that the things I witnessed, the experiences that I had because of that, like the openness to that way of being over there, it was very different. And I know it wasn't everybody's case. There's like a major discrepancy between the caste systems, the wealthy, privileged, the underprivileged, and especially I'd say in the Middle East. It was like so much more apparent, people living in like huge fucking villas, beautiful villas with like drivers and maids and not, fucking tigers. I went to, yeah, there's some interesting people. And then there's those folks who are living in like, there's 10 of them in a 1-bedroom little shack. So there's definitely that discrepancy there, but this is life, right? This is the polarity. Hi, Roger. Hi, Cloutier. As a first generation immigrant, you know what I'm talking about. Hello, Nezrin. Hello. And so maybe that's part of it. There's this like polarity between the two. And there's shadow, there's light. And let me know if it's like too noisy. All I hear is banging on my end, but I bet you guys don't even hear it. So it's funny how, again, our perception of things can be impacting. But this can also kind of relate to the change we go through. When I reflect back on my time in the Middle East, living there, graduating high school, like going through the experiences and the opportunities that I had, like, and then coming back to Canada, it really like opened my eyes to be like, wow, I just recall how like stubborn I was before moving there. I would like cry all the time. I was like, I don't want to go. I don't believe you guys are gonna make me leave here. My friends, oh, my best friend, ah. And now I like reflect on those times and I'm like, whoa, look at all the cool things I got to do. All the different experiences I was exposed to that have like made me who I am today. And this is, I think, the underlying thing around change. This is like why it is so important for us to be okay with the transformation. To know that life is not going to look the same as it did a year ago or 5 years ago, and we think we can all agree on that. Like, think about your life back before pandemic time. And then everyone's life was just like fucking shattered. It's just like, it just was, boop, stop. This isn't going to be how life is anymore. No one expected it. And life changed. And it was around that time for me that's when I really started to like step into coming onto YouTube and sharing my voice more and looking at other ways I can like be myself and share my gifts, my magic, my abilities to the world in some form that was not just like within the box of society. And so again, if you're new here, you might not know, but I did work as a psychiatric nurse for many years. So like in the conventional healthcare system, very like rigid structures. And, we had flow obviously at times because you have to kind of be mostly lenient and fluid to support people, especially if they're in like a crisis situation. You have to be able to respond. But it was like how I thought my life was going to go. And then things out of my control started to show up that it's like, oh, maybe this isn't. And I'm not saying like I learned from my many years ago of like, oh, just trust, everything's going to be okay. You don't have to cling. Like, for sure I've clinged. For sure I've held on. I think we all do. But it's like the invitation to you to just recognize, where is it that you are kind of starting to feel the pull in your life? What new direction? And I've talked about this quite a bit in like some lives lately, because the channel is definitely shifting towards like supporting people who want to create, who are feeling the call to tune into that, like really like your directive from God. Your directive from God, creator, spirit, is to take care of this earth, to be like in dominion and responsible for the earth plane. And with this, we were created in the image of God, created to be creators, is how I see it. So we have the same like operating system. And this material plane is ours to function in and move through. And that can look like so many different things for so many different people. Again, that polarity I talked about between light and dark, wealthy and poor, there's going to be all the different things. And not everyone needs to be a coach. Not everyone needs to be, a musician. Not everyone needs to be a lawyer. Not everyone needs to work at McDonald's. Not everyone needs to, whatever, experience the same things in life. But we all have an innate call to what it is we want to explore. And with that being said, it's because we are meant to be like in these experiences. This is spirit uses and creates each of us to have these different experiences, and from there create more, to create greater, to learn from the challenges, to learn from life. And I believe to bring things that are into the world, whatever that is. Again, if it's like creative projects, books, music, art, story, is it pictures? Is it, conversations with particular people? Is it changes in law and regulation, right? Is it, the list goes on, whatever it is, that's us bringing things forward, creating, and then allowing for an evolution that is ultimately going to lead to what I was talking about in the Explore the Tarot series of the World card just the other day. It came out if you didn't watch it yet, but talking about that whole concept of like tikkun olam in the Kabbalistic sense, the repairing of the world, where all like we exist because of this like breaking of the universe that then led to this creation of our planet, our material world. And now it's like us returning back to the original state, back to the light, back to love, back to God, spirit, however you want to perceive it. Whew, so many things I'm talking about. But that's why I think we're all meant to create, and we're all going to be led to bring more of these creations out. Neptune and Aries, 13, 15 years cycle, whatever that is. Aries being the first sign, if you perceive it that way. I know there's some magical systems that say otherwise. I think they start with Leo. Still a fire sign, still a fire, initiating, right? Think about all the people I know who have like had fires in their life. We were we're looking for some musicians. So if any of you know musicians, drummer, bassist, guitarist, those three, and they're like in Edmonton or some place closer, then please tell me, reach out over email. But I was talking with someone recently who was like, oh yeah, like, I'm looking for something to join, and I just had like a fire in my life. Like they'd lost all their stuff in a fire. And I remember some clients I'd known who had lost their belongings in a fire. And Rick Rubin, who I just posted something on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, you can head over there. Same at Full of Veritas. But I believe he's gone through multiple losses of his belongings, his house, because of fire. And his perspective on that, like, you may want to go check it out. I can't speak for him, but it's interesting for me to witness when fire shows up in life, there is a transformation. There is something that's burning away, and it sucks because, and this is something I've learned this past week, is the power of decluttering. So going through my space and intentionally getting rid of the things that are my old self, the things that are not going to be with me in the like on the path that I'm headed, whatever. It's like decor, belongings. I was wearing clothing yesterday, you guys. I did my workout. And it's these leggings that I really like. I've had them for so long. They have holes in them, like holes in the knee, holes all along on the inside of the thigh. Like I'll go out in these pants, and usually I'm thinking like, oh, you really shouldn't be wearing this full. This is kind of embarrassing. Like you have clothes that don't have holes in them. And then my shirt too was like this, actually, I think it was like a maternity shirt that's, so you can nurse with it and stuff. And I was still wearing this outfit. I just love this outfit, like the black. It feels comfy. It's familiar. And after the workout, I was just like, these clothes need to fucking go. And I just took them off. I just took them off where I was, and I threw them in the garbage. And it was sad. It was sad. I was like, oh, I want to keep that stuff still. But when we can intentionally let go of the things, the belongings, the items we have, then we don't have to worry about the universe doing it for us through, say, let's burn your house down. Or, relationships ending, or you getting fired from your job, or whatever. And, I think too, my time working as a psych nurse, and there were multiple opportunities for me to leave. And I kept kind of thinking, oh, I don't really want to go. I'm comfortable here. It pays me the money, da 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 da. And then I was starting to have physical health stuff show up. When I was so stressed in that particular role, I was an educator. So a full-time kind of middle management role, you could say. A lot of responsibility, and the stress that I was taking on, because I didn't have the proper boundaries at that time, very much in codependency and stuff. I started to manifest physical symptoms that I was holy fuck, what's going on in my body? Am I dying? And I started to recognize those symptoms would show up at work when I was overly stressed. And so I started recognizing those and I was like, okay, I'm going to step back. And I left that position, just went like casual until I finally left. But, it made me think about how many times have we been in scenarios, and I can speak about this from other roles that I was in, where, one job I was in the inner city in corrections, uh, very fucking dangerous situations where I knew I should have left, but there I was still in these scenarios where I was like facing like my imminent death, facing the death of clients and people. And then it was like, okay, why stick around this? You can't. You have to step away. Like, otherwise, the universe is going to give you a reason to step away. So, this is what I mean about creating. Do you want to create and be in charge of your life? Follow your will? Do you want to live life on your own terms, if we could use that? Or are you just willy-nilly moving through life? Because that's fine. Again, some people, that's just what they want. One of my teachers just said recently, she was like, not everyone wants to do certain things and live like a big dream life. Some people just want to be comfortable and like in the state of just every day being told what to do, your job, coming home, knowing that they have like the option to order their food in, make it the same meal, watch the same shows, whatever. This is not a judgment. I have days where I just like do the same thing and it's a comfortable thing, but there's also this drive inside. But not everyone has that. But if you are someone that has that drive, or you feel like there's something more, like you're at that like edge of like, there's something more. What is it? I feel, or maybe you feel like there's like this like internal calling for you. You've had this vision or this sense that you were meant to create something, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. And you're just like, now, okay, like what's the next thing? Well, this is a space for you. You're going to want to subscribe, tune in for more. I have an event coming up too on the 2nd of February that I think is going to help you. And this is the time. That's the main thing. This is the time for all of us to bring these things forward. Okay, I'm going to check the comments, and then I want to maybe talk about one other thing. I'll focus on you, nothing. Dang, that's scary. I'm afraid of graduating high school now. Ooh, the Roblox free player, hi. Hi, Meredith, hello. It's funny, yesterday I was at the grocery store, and this like staff, when we were paying, she kept like talking. She asked me like how I was twice, and I was kind of like, okay, clearly, instead of me like trying to avoid conversation, because my kid was like hungry, and I'm just like, let's just let's go home, eat. But she asked me again, and then something inside me was just sort of like, oh, like, just asked her, because she said it's going to be a long night. And I'm like, oh, did you just start your shift? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, are you in school? Because you know how it is as an intuitive. Fucking doesn't know things. How come at like grocery tills and checkouts, that's when I can't even tell you how many conversations I've had with people, either the staff or like other customers, where it's been like a little mini coaching session or mentorship. But whatever, this is part of our life, right? And that might be what you're creating too. Oop, knocking over stuff. But she was just like, yeah, I'm in school, I'm upgrading classes. And I was like, oh, like, and then I, of course, because I'm always thinking, where is this going? Oh, what's the possibilities? And I asked her like what she was maybe curious about doing after, and she's like, oh, there's just so many choices. Breathing that in. How many choices there are that you feel like, I've been there, where it's like there's just so much to choose from. How do I know what to start with? Oh my gosh. And then you just don't pick. And I was like, when she said that, I was kind of like, yeah, there are a lot of choices. I'm like, but maybe you create your own. And that kind of just like, I could tell she like received that, but also wasn't sure what to like perceive of that. Interesting how those words have similar letters. Gematria in my head around those numbers, but those letters rather. But it just was this realization to me that, yeah, many of people are like in these transitions in life, youth to adulthood, like you're saying, the Roblox free player, graduating high school, and now you're like, where's it going? It's like, you get to choose where it's going, and there's no wrong choice. I left high school, I went into psychology because I thought that was what I was going to do. I could see myself as this like clinical therapist, a psychologist, helping people. And then I went to those like first, like second, third year courses, like those 200, 300 level of psychology. And by the end and all the research, I was like, fuck this. If I have to do any more statistics, I'm going to shoot someone. Um, and I was like, this is not it. I thought this was it. This is not it. But I had a great experience. And then it led me to, again, I don't know if I've shared this, but like my experience with psych nursing, like finding psych nursing is very much like a dream state. I remember seeing the website for the school and looking at it. I can see the pictures on the website, and like the color of the website was like a maroonish red, like almost like a scarlety red. And I applied and I got in, and like then I remember being in that for the first year, our first clinical, and I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? Even though years prior, I think I've shared, I saw myself working in psychiatry. I saw myself after watching A Beautiful Mind, which is just like one of the best movies, seeing the scene where like the staff are like taking this guy to the hospital. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. Like that, like helping people who don't even know they need the help. Like, how intense is that? And seeing like the changes in their life, you know. Obviously in 1950s, 60s, psychiatry is very different, I think, ish, than modern 21st century. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you just don't know where you're going, and like everything led to the next thing. Me being in psychiatry, as a nurse, working in crisis, working with the police, doing all these things really informed who I am now and have helped me so much. You know, I even think to like, I love interviewing people. And I think, you know, I don't interview people now for their mental health, but a huge part of the like my ability to interview people now is in like say the cult cast, like podcast, or having conversations with people, is really because of my time doing mental health status exams. You know, like how do you have a conversation, like a real conversation, and get the information you need from someone? Requires a skill, but it all intersects with each other. But ultimately, what I want to say is that there is this movement in the next like 13 years, we're going to start seeing where there's this call to show up as yourself, to be in this place of self-expression. This is tied to human design too, and that whole path of the sleeping or cross of the sleeping phoenix. But it's like you are going to be asked to show up as yourself. And to me, this creative potential, things that want to come through you that are divinely inspired inside you, they want to show up because you're the one that can bring them in with your unique eye, your unique vision, your unique perspective and life story, the things that you've witnessed, the things that you know, because you do know stuff, even though you think you don't. That's something I'm really sitting with, is believing that I have the ability to share and teach, even if I don't necessarily, am like, not if I'm not an expert at it. The whole Explore the Tarot series and a lot of the work that I do, I'd say, is like tied to that. Is like, it's me studying and learning to then share with you. So that is a huge way for us to like integrate the teachings, integrate the things we have learned, is to share it. And this is something I'm really recognizing. Let me see the comments. Meredith, the sandwich maker at Subway, did that. I gave her a $10 tip. I assume she was talking to you about life. Hi, Sira Damskinowski. Hello. Good morning. So there is this opportunity for all of us to be okay with the change, to take the steps in the next direction, wherever it's leading you, and to trust the process of that. And if you need help with it, if you're looking for that support, the encouragement, you're going to want to keep coming back to the channel. There's going to be more like info and shares along this and some opportunities for you to really tune into it. Because I think it is really important. Those people who are not willing to take the step, the leap or the jump, whatever, however you perceive it, it's not really even a jump. Let's be honest. It's just the next step. But, if you're just going to continue to be like in that smallness, there will be parts of you that it feels like you're being eaten away at. This to me is like the depression, spiritual depression. It's when we're not really walking the path that we know we should be walking. And we kind of just become stuck in inaction. And that's no fun. And it's, if that's what you're choosing, that's what you're choosing. Again, everyone has choice. But what are you going to choose that's like creating greater for you and for the world around you? I put in my notes here the story about the Buddha. And just like thinking about how this whole change can like happen in so many different ways. We often think, oh, I'm like at this lowly level and then I'm going to change to be greater. But it's like, it's just change to experience because the soul wants to experience, right? That soul is part of God or the spirit. And like with the Buddha was a prince. And like life was like great. And then he was like, I'm going to go do this like thing over here. He wanted to try something different. And a lot of people in his life, I think, perceived it as like, what is wrong with you? Like, why would you leave all the like good things in life? I could say that was my life, leaving psychiatry, leaving the nursing role, leaving a business that was like, providing for me within the last like bit here, and then deciding to just, you guys see, many of you who've been here throughout, you see how I've gone through change where it's like, oh, I thought this was like working. It was good. But then I listened to that intuition. Things are guiding, we got to trust that call. And it can seem backwards to many people looking in at you almost, or witnessing you, where they're probably wondering, why are you doing that? Like, you should be continuing with your stable income and job. You should be continuing with that marriage because, it provides you this sense of security or, whatever it might be. But only you actually know what your soul is calling you to. Only you. Just like the Buddha was the one that knew inside that there was something else, something else. Did he know that it was going to turn into this like movement of spirituality and like nirvana, level of spirit, the highest level of spiritual attainment? I don't know. That's something I'm curious about. There's certain things that I'm like, I feel like I just know. Paul and I talk about this a lot. We're like, yeah, like the fact that we like feel that, like what's going to happen? Like 3333. I'm going to take that, I don't know, but I continue to follow it, and I hope you can continue to follow that as well. So, where are we going? Where are we going? Where is it leading? If you are wanting extra support on this, subscribe, check back, keep up to date with me, email me, message me on Instagram or wherever. And yeah, stay in touch. I gotta release some ways in which we can be in contact a bit more. Because I realized I have my like arcane letters, that magical correspondence. So I email people on mailing list, and there's like lots of cool, juicy things that come out there. I realized since I shut down my other website, I don't have like any way for people to sign up for that. So that's going to come out soon too. Just so that we can like remain in that place of conversation and inspiration. Yeah, this kind of just wanted to come on here. I'm open to people's thoughts, questions. If you do have, I'll give a moment for that. Just because, yeah, I feel like I'm usually on here in the evenings, later in the day. Oh, hello, ma'am. Coffee. But what else do you want me to speak on, Spirit? Yeah, if there's any questions, thoughts, you can let me know. Other than that, I'm excited to see what kind of shows up. I have not yet done my Marina Abramovich thing. Has anyone here done that yet? The like challenge of the week? I'm like sitting with what I want to do and it's like creating a lot of anxiety. I need to create some space for that. Oh, Roger, okay. I did the hour in front of the mirror. Ooh, life changing. Good for you. Sweet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, man. That's definitely like a practice, I'd say, that can create difference. So those of you who are not aware, what we've been doing, instead of just like pulling just like tarot cards every week, which I was kind of getting bored of, we've been pulling these cards that have like a different challenge for us to really like break past any blocks, any stagnancy. Because when we're talking about we stay in life, we're comfortable, we don't do things different, we don't drive a different direction on the road when we go to work, or we don't, we eat the same meal every Thursday. I don't know, whatever it might be. When we pull these cards, we're like tuning into a different task or challenge that helps us to break out of that. And the other week it was to sit in front of a mirror motionless for an hour and just like gaze at whatever. I don't know about you, Roger. My eyes, like, they definitely wandered at points of time, like on me, on different places that were like mirrored or reflected behind. But yeah, that was like that day. Oh my gosh, that Friday for me was. Ugh. But the one this week it was a blank card. So it was like to choose something that makes you feel uncomfortable or like puts you out of that comfort zone. So I don't know what that is for you. I gave the example of Gurdjieff, one of the like fourth way teaching guys, which is just like a spiritual teaching, I guess you could say. But I think my understanding is he would like tell his students to just go and do something like really out of the normal, like go to a coffee shop and spill your drink or like make a scene, nothing that like harms you or harms anyone else, I'd say, because, there's still legalities we got to deal with. But if I were to like pick up my drink and then just be like, oh, and spill it everywhere and like be like, oh, if I start crying, like if I was, what I was perceiving for myself is if I do something and then I have this like public display of emotion that most people, including me, would be so uncomfortable with, that I think would be like a big stretch for me, a big stretch for the people around me, and to witness like how people would respond. Because like some people, I remember once I was like driving. I was driving, I think, to get my kid. Yeah, I was driving to get my kid, and I drove by like the road, and there was just someone laying on the side of the road. And again, this is my fucking nursing inner city world, where it's like someone's laying on the side of the road or like in a bus shelter. Like, let's check, are they breathing? I don't think that will ever leave. But anyways, I like drive by and there's just someone laying in the snow, like just, and I was kind of like, but then I realized it was a kid. I'm like, what the heck? And people were just driving by. No one was doing anything. Everyone was just driving by. Like, they might not see. I don't know. But like I like went and I turned back around like you turned. Went and I would like wound down the window. I'm like, hey, are you okay? Like, just to call out first, because you don't really just approach anybody. You gotta be safe. And then like this kid kind of like gets up and looks, and he looked like he was crying. And I like was like, oh, maybe I should get out of my car. But I want to be like mindful of his space. But he kind of got up, and like there were some other kids not too far. I thought, like, oh, is he being bullied? But and he kind of was like, no, I'm not that okay, but it's all right. Like, I'm gonna go home. And he got up and he kind of like sulked off, and like I just felt like, oh, just sent him some like love, like whatever he's going through. But that type of like emotional reaction publicly, a lot of people get kind of like, so maybe it's you even this week. Do you like have a breakdown, like an emotional cry, or like just get so fucking angry that you're like, ah? Again, in the right situation so that you don't like create some weird fight. Because some people will take that as a, but even that, Gurdjieff, I think, would say it's like a learning. Um, Everything that we go through, everything we experience is like just a learning. It makes us more attuned to ourselves, makes us more attuned to the flow of the universe. And it makes us more, I guess, just these active, I want to say participants of this reality, which if that is, I believe if you're here, you're listening to me and this is resonating, or you're feeling like maybe this is resonating, but I still have no fucking clue what you're talking about, Fola, then you are that person who's like choosing the active principle to be a creator, co-creator, part of this reality. Nesrin. Uplifting and changing your life can be really challenging and filled with mixed emotions, but also rewarding huge new ways. I recently did that, as you know. Challenge yourself, soul. Love it. Yeah. 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 Nesrin, you moved, yeah. Even when you told me you were moving, like, I was kind of like, oh, wow. Like, that's scary and that's exciting and like so much potential. And a lot of people may not make sense or understand why one would make that choice, or they might have their judgments about, oh, you're doing that because of this, or you're doing that because of that, like whatever it is, right? I'm not talking about your situation, Nesrin, but in general, I think when we create change or contemplate this change in our life, people will, it's inevitable. People will like be like, you shouldn't. But that's because they're so like overly comfortable in their own situation. They don't want to move. So then they're projecting it on the other. Which I was going to say something about that, like just about making change. This is something where I think you have to be mindful who you're telling before you take action. Because, otherwise, like a lot of people, they just kind of like are in conversation where they're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it's like a year later, they're still like, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. It's like, well, stop telling people you're going to do it and just do it. But I kind of get the sense when we tell people what we want to do or our plans in like a lot of detail, especially if you just tell everyone that it's not going to happen because people are going to project your greatest fears back at you. Why you shouldn't do that thing, why they think you shouldn't do it. And that can be really hard. And I think it's okay to create boundaries between you and the people who tell you or continually speak to you like you shouldn't be making those changes. Especially when you know that the change is going to be better for you. And this can be hard, like if we think about the world of like addictions. A lot of times when someone has addiction to alcohol, and oftentimes they go through like the recovery process, they detox, and then they might be in like a recovery center, they're released back home. They return to their same environment, same communities, same relationships, and then it doesn't take long to get back into the fucking alcohol, drink, or whatever. All right, this can apply to anything. If I'm like trying to like stop consuming certain foods and I enter back into scenarios where every Friday we go out for wings, most likely gonna like relapse back into eating the things that I was trying to not eat. So it's really important to create like boundaries, and that is in itself a whole complete change. I think the people who are the most successful in making the change are the ones who completely like cut out certain relationships, certain places, certain behaviors. Oh, Roger says, are you familiar with Louise Hay? I am familiar with her. I wouldn't say like I've read a lot of her books. I know like her concept of like the physical health being tied to spiritual aspects, but I don't know if there's one thing in particular you're referencing, Roger. My understanding too is like she kind of came about in like the 90s because of the whole like HIV AIDS epidemic or fear. And I think she did a lot of work with them, with people like in that population, I believe, right? But she has like a gentle heart, or had a gentle heart. I think she's passed on, has she not? But yeah, I wonder what she'd say about the change. You know, I really, if you're someone you're still not sure, maybe you're like in a particular area. I'm gonna like probably make this my last point, by the way, because like otherwise I'm gonna just sit here and talk all day. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm working on some things that I need to focus on. She's big on mirror work. Oh, yes, yes, okay, yeah, you're right. So she'd be like, talk to yourself in the mirror. Love the self, all that stuff. Okay, she did pass away. Yeah, I was like, thank you for that. What was I going to say, though? Oh my gosh. This is what happens when I get distracted. It's like a little bird with, oh, it'll come. It'll come. Oh, yeah. I think I kind of got. So if there's like something. Oh, now it's gone. But I was going to say something like, say you're a painter, like a creative, like artist in that format, or you have a particular medium. I don't even remember what my thought was going to be anymore. Oh, no, I do now. See, it comes. This is something I really admire about my partner is like, he loves consuming content of like other musicians, but not like their music. He'll like watch people, not just musicians, if it's directors or whoever else, like different people that are just inspiring him in that moment that he comes across. And he'll just like consume the information about them through like interviews and books and whatever. And that's something that I don't really realize how like powerful that can be until just like witnessing him do that. So with that being said, I just want to like name, if you are someone like a painter, or you are a guitarist, or you want to get into like athletic volleyball or like professional volleyball, like again, these can then be anything. You want to be a reality TV show host. I don't know. Like, watch things that are interviews or stories, biographies. Watch and consume, like, really as much as you can about people in that area. Watch other artists, watch other guitarists, watch other volleyball players. Listen to what they have to say. Like, see how they act and, like, they posture their body or whatever. We're both kind of obsessive that way. I think all humans can be obsessive. I don't know. I thought it was just a Scorpio thing in my obsessiveness, which has definitely died down, or at least it's shifted in like since being a kid, where I'd be obsessed about like certain actors, to the point of like I can't even sleep. Like I thought I had like OCD. Maybe I have some weird form of like that, but I mean I like control. But yeah, like that type of like obsession, I think can be really beneficial because you become absorbed into a particular world or mindset or framework, a language, a perspective that I think helps you to become more of who you want to be. I don't know who needed to hear that, but I just like want to name that that's okay to do, because otherwise you're going to be like just in the old, not creating the change, in the old conversations, the old relationships, which I've said before. Have you ever noticed how when you go, say, to meet an old friend, there's certain people in my life where it's like I've just stopped connecting with them because I know as soon as I go back to like engage with them, I'm gonna like speak in very particular ways, like really sarcastically, which I am very sarcastic, I would say, but like even more so, or just like the words and the language I use, the perspective I hold, how I am acting with them, like the power dynamic or something, what they're expecting from me or what I think I need to be for them. All that stuff was just so like palpable. And so having to be like, Kate, no more of that. Instead, I'm going to choose this. I'm going to watch these people. I'm going to like hang out with this person instead. I'm going to surround myself with these particular books or these ideas and concepts that are more aligned with who I am becoming. That I think is an important part. And I am so grateful that we have all of this content, all this information, and access to the information on YouTube, on the internet, on social media, wherever, books. You can pretty much get any book now, any idea, whether it's like centuries old or modern. There's no excuse. And if you're not sure where you can get this, just put it out there and just start like literally in your head, be like, hey, I want to see more of such and such, or I'm curious about this. And then the universe is going to start showing you. Even yesterday, I was kind of like, okay, I need to like learn more about like sales and like things like this from like an advertising perspective. And I was like, where is that? Where is that information? Spirit, like show it to me. And then I was like led to click on one particular like video. And I was like, oh, here it is. Like, and the video title, the thing was not even tied to what I was seeking, but I clicked it. And then I realized, oh, this whole like topic or this whole course is exactly about this. I had no idea. I thought it was something else. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you with all of these words. If you are just tuning in, you can check back, watch the replay. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your words, your thoughts, your energy. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Monday for another live. We're going to be talking about, I think like it was like magic rituals and like stuff to help with shifting different blocks of creativity. You can subscribe, you can tune in. And yeah, I think that's it. Nice to see you too, Meredith. Hope you're feeling better. Yeah. So yeah, bye everyone. Have a great day.